Hello. Today we're going to be talking about multiplying two polynomials. But before I go through that, I want to remind you of the distributive property. When we multiply a sum of two things, a binomial, or a plus b times c plus d, we get the following result: ac plus ad plus bc plus bd. Now the way an acronym that is common with this is FOIL. The first, a times c, plus the outside, a times d, plus the inside, b times c, plus bd, which is the last terms, b times d. So I want to carry this into multiplying two numbers. So this may not how you normally multiply, but this is a correct way of doing it. You can do 20 plus 4 times 30 plus 2, because 20 plus 4 is the same thing as 24, and 30 plus 2 is the same thing as 32. And so using the foiling method, or the distributive property, we get 600 plus, we got 20 times 2, which is 40, and then 4 times 3, which is 120, and then the 4 times 2, which is 8. And so we get 600 plus 120 plus 8. So this is going to become 600 plus, I'll combine these two, that's going to be 160 plus 8. And then add these two together, we get 760 plus 8. And then finally we get 768. Okay, so that is one way to do it. Now let's recall, you may do it this way: 32 times 24. We multiply, this is what's commonly known as the old school method. That would be 8, 4 times 3, that's 12. And then bring a 0 down, that's going to be a 4. And that's going to be a 6. And then we add down, we get 8, 6, and 7. And we get the same number, 768. But I also want to look at it in an even different way. Let's look at 32 times 24. Okay? This is 4 times 2, which is 8. And when we do 4 times 3, it's not really 4 times 3, but it's more 4 times 30. So that's going to be 120. And so then when we do the next step, we usually add a 0. There's the 0 that we were usually added. That's this 0 here. Then we do 20 times 2, 20 times 2, which gives us 40. And then we do the 20 times 30, which gives us the 600. And when we add down, we get 8, we get 6, and we get 7. So 768. Those are the same thing. Now what we can think of this is the distributive property being done. We just compact it in the old school method. Now we want to do the same thing here. We want to distribute this process. So looking at it, we would have the outside, which gives us x squared times x gives us x to the third power. And then we would do x squared times 4, so that's going to be 4x squared. And then we would do 3 times x, so that's plus 3x. And then the 3 times 4, which is 12. And so now, looking at this, we have no like terms. Therefore, this is the final product of the two polynomials. Now, let's look at here. Here we have 2 terms times 3 terms. And just like the distributive property, we want to make sure that every pair is being multiplied. So we want the x, and so what's nice to do is draw lines, making sure that each pair is being done. So that's x times x squared, so that's going to be x cubed. X times negative 2x, so that's going to be minus 2x squared. And then x times 3, so that's going to be plus 3x. And so then we can do the other side, the 2. We want to make sure the 2 is multiplied to each term. So that's 2 times x squared, so plus 2x squared. And then we want the 2 times negative 2x, so that's going to be minus 4x. And then the 2 times 3, which is going to be plus 6. Okay? Now, here we want to see, do we have any like terms? Well, we see that the x cubed has no like terms, but we see that the negative 2x squared and the positive 2x have like terms. And we also see that the 3x and the negative 4x have like terms. And we see 6 is by itself. So let's start this off. The x cubed comes down. It has no like terms to compare. Here, let's read this as negative 2x plus 2x. That gives us a 0, so we have no more x squared terms. And then we have a 3x minus a 4x. So this is going to be negative x. And then finally, we do the plus 6. And so then the product of these two polynomials is x cubed minus x plus 6. Okay, so let's look at this next one. Here we have 3 terms times 3 terms. So this is going to be an extra step from what we had to do here. Here we saw that the first term touched every one of them. The second term touched all of them. Then we're going to have a third term that touches all of them. So I'm going to probably need another color here. Let's use this color. Okay, so let's look at the first batch of numbers. The x squared is going to go to each one of these. So that's going to be 2x to the 4th. And then we have x squared times 4x. So that's going to be a 4x cubed. And then we have x squared times 1. So that's going to be plus x squared. Next, we want to look at the 3x. And it's going to touch each one of the terms. So 3x times 2x squared, so that's going to be plus 6x cubed, and then the 3x times the 4x, so that's going to be a 12x squared, and then the 3x times 1, so that's going to be plus 3x. Okay, I'm going to be running out of room, it looks like. And then I have the last term to touch every one of them. So that's going to be plus 8x squared, and then 16x. Am I going to fit it? Let's see. And then finally, 4 plus 1, or 4 times 1, which is just going to be 4. Okay. Now, we have a list of terms here. We want to find all of the like terms. We see that the 2x to the 4th has no like terms, but we do see that the x cubed has like terms. There's only 2 of them, it looks like. The x squared has a couple of like terms. So 1, 2, 3 of those like terms. And then the 3x and the 16x are like terms. So we want to combine all those up. So let's, before we just do it mentally, let's actually set this up. So we're going to have 2x to the 4th plus, let's group up all the x cubed like terms. So that's going to be 4x cubed plus 6x cubed. Okay. Plus, what do we have here? We have an x squared. We have a plus 12x squared plus an 8x squared. Okay, so that groups those up. And then finally, well, not finally, but the last group of terms is going to be plus 3x plus 16x. And then finally, 4. Okay, so this is something that is very useful, is to group up your like terms so that you can correctly add them up. So for the first term, we have just 2x to the fourth plus, here we have a 6 and a 4, which gives us 10x cubed. Here, you may not notice, this is a 12x squared. So this is 12 plus 8, which makes it 20, plus a 1 is going to be 21. So plus 21x squared. And then we have the 16 plus 3, which doesn't quite make us 20. So that's going to be 19x plus 4. And so that is the product of these two polynomials, or trinomials to be specific. Now, the thing that you want to be careful of is make sure that you group up your terms correctly. Make sure the first term is multiplied to all of them, the middle term is multiplied to all of them, and the last term is multiplied to all of them. I highly suggest going through this long word process because that keeps your work organized.